to 5:30. So I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. First up, I'm going to assume we have no adjustments to the agenda. Someone could jump in otherwise, but our agenda is pretty straightforward. All right.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
Is
go
somebody
ahead, David.
taking notes for minutes?
Joe is here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just don't see him then. Thanks.
Yeah, I just came in and my name is showing Erica because I'm using a different computer than usual, but it is me.
Great, thank you.
I have no
all
adjustments, Michael.
Thank you. All right. Number 3, we've got approval of our minutes. Have folks had a chance to see the draft minutes from our April meeting? And if they're not corrections of any kind, then we could have a motion to approve those.
What if I could?
I know it.
Motion to approve.
Okay, that's a motion from Raylene. Do we have a second? I'm going to go ahead and second that. I'll second it. All in favor of approving our minutes from April, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Okay, great. That is everyone. So no need to consider voting no's. Yeah, the minutes are approved. Next up, we have public comment. That would be a chance for any members of the public to give input on something that's not on the agenda. I believe there's still not. Well, let's see. We have one member of the public here. It looks like, unless someone else showed up. But jump in now if there's something that you want to say. All right, not hearing anything. We can move on to our new business. Item number 1, we're going to have a public hearing for changes to the Unified Development Ordinance. We have to have a motion to go into to open the public hearing. That's right, Janet. Yeah, that's a nod. So just if someone would like to say so moved for opening our public hearing, go for it.
Moved.
I'll second.
All right. Okay. All in favor of opening our hearing, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Cool. All right. I didn't hear anything from Rosemary, but four is potentially enough. Any opposed? All right, no one is opposed. Rosemary, did you vote? Yeah, you did. Okay, great. So that one is unanimous. We are now in our public hearing. So we have opening remarks. I assume that's you, Janet.
Sure, I'll take the floor. I want
thank you.
to extend my apologies to the Planning Commission. I know we did this last July. In my endeavor to get everything right, I so didn't, because there was a lot of other public warnings that I needed to make to adjoining municipalities, to the Regional Planning Commission, and to ACCD, which I failed to do. So I did it right this time, and so this is a rinse and repeat officially. So thank you very much. So I will go through for Peter or anyone else who wasn't here last July. The Planning Commission, you folks have all been through what is currently in ordinance for accessory dwelling units. We've talked about where driveways and parking and bedrooms, and weighed them against what the state ACCD folks encouraged us to do and to change, and that's exactly what we did. And so on the sheet that is attached in your packet, there is the marked up version, what we struck and what we added. We reworded number 1 to mirror exactly what the state has to say in statute. We removed sharing driveways with a primary dwelling. So folks, depending on their lot, if they would like to get a second driveway, they have a shot at doing that with the DRB. We did not limit the number of bedrooms to 2. We removed that limit. So depending on the size of their ADU, if they wanted 3 or 4 bedrooms, they now have that ability once this is passed. And the other change was the parking minimum requirements. We removed those minimums to make it easier for folks to create ADUs and get parking for them. And incidentally, Michelle and I probably permit a new ADU every month. So people have really been thinking about it and acting on it. So those are the changes, and that's what we're here tonight to discuss and vote on when you folks are ready. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you. All right, so that counts as the first 2 sections, I think, opening remarks and presentation of the draft revisions. Next up is questions and answers. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, David.
Yeah, just for the sake of asking the question, I just want to make sure that were no changes in the state statute that impact the language we have, that it still would be completely compliant.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Not yet, at least, right?
That's right, not yet. So as of right now, it's all good.
Were there any other questions? All right. Yeah, so if there are not, then we can actually close our public hearing if we wish. And probably we do, because we don't want to keep it on indefinitely.
So
So I
moved
think,
to close.
oh, yes. Yes, thanks, Rosemary. Is there a second?
Michael, don't you
Oh,
want
yes.
to comment from the public on the public hearing?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I meant questions from the public. I didn't see any hands raised.
It wasn't a question. I just
Oh,
want to thank you for moving ahead. I want to urge you to send it on to the council. And knowing that even if S100 is signed into law, we are on our way to compliance. And Janet has kept on top of that all the way, even though it's been a moving target. And I would not hold up this, since there is very likely going to be future changes, as finally there's a lot of attention on trying to get local communities on board with infill development, which Barry has been trying to do for quite some time. So I would urge you to move forward, even if it's in an incomplete packet with retrospect in 2 years' time. But we don't know exactly where the legislature is going to go. So thank you very much for all your good work, and send it off. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Anthony. All right. Okay. We have a motion and we have a second to go out of our public hearing. It looks like Becky has arrived also. Cool. All right, great. I don't know when that happened. Sorry. Where was I? Oh, right. Yes, we have a motion and a second to go out of our public hearing. All in favor? Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Nice.
Any opposed? All right, that is everyone. We have closed our public hearing. Actually, that was the decision to close. Okay, great, cool. Because the thing is, the decision to close was in the list, and then there's the second 2 is, close public hearing. I didn't notice that before, but we're doing things in the right order. So now before us is we have our changes. We have had our public hearing, and now we may decide to forward these revisions to City Council for consideration of a first hearing before Council. I think it's another so moved kind of situation.
I'll move.
Oh, so moved, or second.
Okay, all right, so that's Joe, and then David is the second. That's great. Is there any further discussion around this motion? All right, not hearing any, then all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right, and any opposed? I only say any because it looked like everyone, yes, Raylene raised a hand too. All right, it is unanimous. Our motion to forward that to City Council has passed. All right, number 2, close public hearing. We did that already, really, because we moved to do it. So we can say that we've done it already. Great. That wraps up the public hearing section of our meeting, all the business that we need to do. Next up, we look at the date for our regularly scheduled meeting, which will be June 8th, if that works for everyone. Okay, our meeting will be June 8th. Item 7, we have staff updates, and there's a bunch of them. Is there anything you wanted to draw particular attention to or to go over, Janet?
Maybe, let me quickly see what I wrote up the other day.
I had a couple of things after you. Yeah, so go.
Sure. I just, my second to last bullet on the first page, I told you folks that I was going to environmental court. It was actually yesterday and not today, and I was in environmental court the entire day. And the city lost on all points. And what that means is when the Development Review Board denied St. Monica's request to demolish, the environmental court heard it as a de novo case, which means they heard it brand new with any and all new evidence that the DRB didn't see last year. And the court chose in favor of St. Monica's. So my guess is mid to late summer, that structure on West Street will come down so they can build their playground. And that was the only thing I needed to draw attention to. Thank you, Michael.
So there was sorry, excuse me. There's an item in there about code enforcement through the fire marshal, and I was curious the extent to which we're going to be able to see code enforcement of other areas of the code, because we do, like the development ordinance, for example, has myriad infractions all over the place, and so I'm curious about where that is in sort of the the pecking order of making sure that actually gets pursued.
Yes, good question. It hasn't been answered yet. We are still trying to fill the electrical inspector position, which means we don't have enough inspectors to do all the minimum housing. And right now, the emphasis seems to be on minimum housing over just about everything else. But I keep reminding them we have, lots of other ordinances, including the zoning. And I think I've spoken to this before. Michelle, our permit administrator, and I have talked frequently about what it might take to do our own zoning review and enforcement and figure out how that works with our schedules and not be in building people, but spend so many days a week outside. Berry City typically does passive enforcement, which means we wait for somebody to let us know when something is gone wrong or there's a question, or if we see something in our own driving about. Montpelier does the same thing. They don't have boots on the ground. Michelle and I have talked about changing that to help get some of these things that are, I wouldn't say glaring, but that we know are out there and just really need to get fixed. So it's a moving target, is to answer your question, and we talk about it a lot.
Yeah, I think I understand that the passive enforcement might be a good fit, but my interest is to make sure that the city has a way to pursue things that have been brought forward. So it's not just the visibility that the city has, but to ensure that the process continues after it has gotten into the pipeline.
I
So
fully understand.
I just want someone to be on it. That's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping for.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. The second thing I wanted to bring up is that before the DRB, there is part of the application of the Meltdown restaurant is about the location of a patio. And Janet, yeah, you're okay.
Perhaps this is cutting you off, but it might be a good time to let you know the Meltdown has rescinded their application. So they will not be
Okay.
heard at the June 1st hearing next week. They were frustrated that the DRB could not get a quorum, and it puts them out too late now to wait until July. John feels that he's beyond the time to get building materials, and so they rescinded their application. So knowing that, I'm going to let Michael speak to something that he and I have briefed about, which is I think a great idea. So go ahead. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, from the perspective of the Planning Commission, part of their the application that they wanted to have approved was just about the location of a patio. Right now, patios are considered accessory structures. Accessory structures are not permitted in the front of buildings. This is weird because a patio could quite easily go in the front of a building. And so it just seems like it's a case that in general, patios want to fit under the umbrella of accessory structures, but perhaps they need to be exempted in terms of like the side of the building they're allowed to be on. So I think it's a change that we should consider in the future potentially. And that's all I wanted to say is that we have identified a place where our ordinance is perhaps too strict, and we're causing people to come and ask for a variance for something which just should be generally allowed.
Yes, so the Meltdown is in the Design Review Overlay District. And that section of the ordinance says specifically for accessory structures can't be in the front. So yeah, it's unfortunate. So maybe next year they can come back and, or maybe they won't even have to be in front of the DRB if this is something that you, the commission, can talk about and find some new language.
Well, I think it was for part of it. It also triggered a minor site plan review, right?
Yes.
So it had to go to the DRB, but they could have paid a smaller fee if it didn't require a variance. So I feel like this is a thing where, in general, it makes sense for the design review district to say like, no, you can't put your shed in front, but putting the patio, yes, probably. So anyway, so something for the queue for future. Did anybody else have any comments or questions about the staff update?
Not on that, but I just want to note that Rosemary left. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I guess it's not.
Oh, I guess so. Fortunately, we still have a quorum, so we can end the meeting in a normal way instead of a whoops, we suddenly don't have a quorum kind of way.
She was concerned she may have Wi-Fi issues. So my guess is it cut out on her at the appropriate time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to call attention to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, all
Looks
right.
like she's back.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. Well, since we, unless there are any other questions or comments about staff updates, we can move on to roundtable. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to bring to the Planning Commission meeting? Okay, there's some, Becky, you had your hand up?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just
go right
curious
ahead.
about how, where we are with the 2 grants that we received and when those will require our time, I guess, our attention.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the RFPs finalized. Quite literally, I have to adjust the dates and I want a second set of eyes. So.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent. And David, you raised your hand?
Yep. Becky already asked the question I had.
All right, great. Yes, that it would be very exciting to get those going. All right. Representative Anthony, you have your hand up. You may go ahead.
Thank you. With your permission, I know I don't belong in roundtable per se, but
Sure. But you
I
pulled
had
rank,
to,
so go ahead. Yeah.
okay. I had to point out, I went to a fascinating presentation at Down Street today at noontime. It was the unveiling of a new ACCD housing initiative pilot project to try to design and how shall I say, collaborate with a select number of volunteer communities to engage in retrofit infill. That is to say, take a house that's, say, a twosome and make it a foursome, or a single and make it in a duplex. And I guess I would encourage not to create any conflicts for the mayor, but because he's very familiar with this, he works for ACCD. It might be useful for him to give you a little down and dirty discussion. And there was a nice video presentation, which I'm sure he has access to. Several communities were represented there. There was a TV crew. There are only going to be 5 pilot communities statewide. And so to the extent to which Barre feels like it's time, and it has if you will, opportunity projects waiting to be, if you will, evaluated by a design team. I think it would be better sooner to make that decision than later, because there is an application deadline for participation by 5 communities statewide. And I just think Jake is probably as handy, if he doesn't feel like there's any conflict involved, to just give you the lowdown and say, here's the opportunity, here's where he thinks, and I don't want to speak for him, that we have opportunities. And by the way, it's actually focused on a neighborhood within the community. It's sort of like building a model neighborhood, if you will. So it's a discrete area within the city limits. It's not just scattered throughout the city, as I understand the design project. But there's lots of, if you will, free labor involved. As long as the planning and zoning is sufficiently accommodating, which I believe ours is from the presentation I saw today. And I just think it's really, I think, best for you folks to weigh in whether you think we're at a point where this would be a good opportunity or not. It's called filling the missing middle, for want of a buzz phrase. But Jake is probably the best person. And if he isn't, he can recommend one of his colleagues at ACCD Housing to come in and give you a little chat about it and tell you what's expected of the locals, and in turn, what's on offer in terms of design and consultation assistance. Thanks.
I've got a question about that. Is that something that would that needs an action from the planning commission to get it going, or is it just sort of something for us to know about in context?
I think the mayor is probably the best person to answer that question, Michael, in the sense that obviously if there is an application process, which there is, and there are commitments, obviously it would be the council that would do that. But I think it's fair for you folks to weigh in and say, I think there's an opportunity here that we've been waiting for or not, and advise the council. But they are the final, if you will, arbiters of grant filings in any event.
That's great. I will look into that specifically, and maybe Janet will take a peek at it also, and then we'll figure out what we can do to to move that forward. We were just talking about the missing middle when we were looking at our how to adjust our zoning last year.
Right. And
Presumably
if I got an
it'll come
email
up
on
again
it-
soon. Yeah, go right ahead.
I didn't know anything about it. My apologies. If I got an email, it didn't jump out at me. So I'll look into it.
I must not be on whatever list that is either, but yeah, I'll look it up. Is there anyone else for our roundtable? Oh yes, Janet.
I just want to say thank you to those of you who reapplied and got your letters into the manager's office. It shows that you folks all want to come back. One person isn't coming back, but we have several who want to get on. So I appreciate the fact that most of you got it in. Thanks.
Indeed, thank you. All right, having roundtabled, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, David. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, Raylene second. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. All right, I think that's everyone. So we are adjourned. Thanks, folks.
Have a good
and
evening and thanks very much. Take care.
You too.
Everyone.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks,
great
everyone.
holiday weekend.
Yeah.